Hello, my name is Sunny Gulati. I want to show you how to use Blender to create these little doodads. They are made by combining two letters from a font, from various fonts, together to create a three-dimensional object that can then be printed out using Shapeways or whoever. I learned how to do this about a year ago, and then I forgot how, and my niece has a birthday coming up, so I thought I'd try to make her something. Turns out that there's a website called Mimo where you can get this done for 25 bucks. However, you don't really have a choice of fonts, which I can understand why, because there's a lot of gotchas. I am going to show you how to do that using Blender and record it for myself as well so that I can remember how to do this a year from now. One of the first things you'll want to do is to grab an interesting font file. I went to dafont.com and I grabbed a couple of different fonts. What you're looking for is a font which has nice thick letters like these, not thin ones like the outline over here. In the end, I chose this font, All Star, as being one which has very thick borders, which makes a very interesting pattern. It's just the outline, it doesn't have any more stuff on the inside. This font here would be horrible because of all the extra little lines that are involved inside it. So download the font and extract it. So let's get started. This is Blender when you first open. You'll want to get rid of the initial square thingy. Press the delete key. OK. Quick tour of Blender. Right click selects. Middle button, the scroll mouse, lets you rotate, zoom in and out. If you hold on shift, then you can pan. I'm going to add text. Press tab to go into edit mode. Change it to the first letter involved, which is M. Press tab to get out of edit mode. I'm now going to hold down the middle button and let me scroll that over to get to the font tab. And here I'm going to choose the font that I want. This is where I'm going to go in the fast direction, which does not always give you the best results, is fairly quick to get through. So I'm extruding the font out. At this point it's still a font object, it's not a editable mesh object. Well, let's move this out of the way so we can add our second letter. So I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to press G to move it, Y to move it in the Y axis only, and then I move my mouse around. There, now it's out of the way. Now let us add another piece of text. Where your mouse is depends on what hotkeys are active. So over here, if I press tab, doesn't help. I have to press tab when my cursor is in here. Change the extrude out 1. Now from experience, pretty much select an object, R to rotate along the red X axis, and 45 gets me there, backspace, backspace, 90 gets me all the way over. Same thing with this one, R, X, 90, and this one RZ 90. Now using the number pad keys, choose the view from above, 5 to get it into isometric mode, and now if I press G, it's just going to move it in this XY plane. So G, center this guy, let's right click to select, G, center it, check it with 1, they're lined up, 3, they are lined up. That's how they are lined up. At this point they are both still text objects. Object, convert to mesh, select the other one, object, convert to mesh. By doing this, there's still problems with the mesh. It's not a good mesh. If you click this guy, go into edit mode, tab, select all, scroll down here to remove doubles. That should now make it so A to select none. Select non-manifold geometry. Nothing is selected. All these numbers are 0. That's good. Tab. Select the other one. One manifold, that one's good. We're now ready to join these guys, actually intersect them. So just to make it clearer, I'm going to name them correctly. M, double click, W. For the M, I'm going to set up a modifier. A modifier simply, it's like saying you should do this operation, but don't save the result just yet. So I'm going to do a Boolean intersect with the letter W, and I'm going to hide the W, leaves behind just the intersection of the two. And it looks a little bit clunky. There's some stuff missing there. So yes, this is the problem I run into doing it the fast way. Sometimes it works, and then you get all the way up to Shapeways, and then Shapeways has problems with sharp corners and things like that. So much for the fast way. Let's start over with the long but more reliable way. So here we are with Blender. We're going to go the long way around instead this time. Add text, tab, change to the letter, select the font. And at this point, we are now going to switch this over to be a mesh. Vert to mesh. Viewing it from above in edit mode. Now you might be tempted at this point to select all and do a mesh cleanup like this. Mesh, cleanup, limited dissolve. The problem is that the resultant thing when extruded does not end up being a proper surface. You run into all kinds of problems. So I'm going to undo that. You don't want to do that. One of the things you can do here, though, from experience, is to cut out any of the sharp spots. And for example, here is a very sharp edge. Shapeways will have problem printing that. It'll say minimum wall thickness has not been met. So here I'm going to take the knife tool. I'm going to go cut that guy that way. Enter. A to unselect. Just select this one vertex. We're in vertex selection mode here. Delete that vertex. Knife mode. Cut that guy. Enter. Right click to select that vertex. Delete vertex. Now I'm going to take this whole thing, all, and extrude region, and it's just, I'm moving my mouse up and down. I'm going to put it in unit 1, enter. So it's fairly similar to what we did before. Tab, let's go and move this G, Y down. Let's add a new text. Tab, backspace, W, tab. Object. Actually, I know it's Alt-C. Vert to a mesh. Go in here, edit it a little bit. Isometric view 7 from above. Shift, middle to move it down. See, these sharp corners here are really hard to deal with. So, knife. Cut it right about here, right about here, right about here. Enter. Select none, select that vertex, shift, that vertex, shift, that vertex, delete vertices, and select all, change my angle, extrude, unit 1, enter, and now we're pretty close to where we were before. Hopefully this will work a little bit better. So, I am heading out of edit mode. This guy, rotate X 90, rotate X 90, enter, rotate Z 90, enter, overview, isometric mode, move it, check alignment. That looks good, that looks good. First one, add modifier, in Boolean, intersect with the second one. And that is looking a lot better. Now, you might think that we are done now and it's time to move on and get the model out to Shapeways. However, you might find that your model, if your fonts are fancy enough, will have multiple parts to it, which Shapeways will then disallow. I'm going to take my shape, I'm going to say apply this, and I'm going to edit the shape. select a single point, and then Control L to select linked. Now you notice that there's some spots inside here that were not selected. So I'm going to invert my selection, and this is a whole separate little piece on the inside that's not connected to the outside. You can see it a little bit better if I go into wireframe mode. I'm going to go ahead and delete that vertices, getting rid of it, back over to the regular shape. Now I'm going to upload it to Shapeways. I'm going to use the wavefront OBJ format. I'm going to take this item, selected, file, export to wavefront. I'm going to take the selection only. My forward was going down the y-axis. My z was going up the z-axis. If I just leave this at 1, I'll get a 1 millimeter cubed object or so. I'm going to up this to about 30 and export to this object. Export. Now I can go over to Shapeways, upload the file. It loads up. Here's my size. It's about 1.8, 2 cubic centimeters or so. And now we have to wait to see if it passes the automatic checks or not. It's looking good for just about everything, and a pretty nice low price. There'll still be some additional cost for shipping, like around $4 or $5. Next up, I'm going to show you how to make this colorful. First thing that we should probably do, just to make this next part of the demo a little bit easier, set the origin of the item to its center of mass. I want to head over to the shading/UV, and then you'll need to split your screen, which is just a left click drag. And here I'm going to press T to hide that, and I'm going to change the view over to UV image editor. Select all the surfaces. So I'm selecting all. Actually, let me go ahead and select by surface, which is in here, here, all. Now unwrap. Here's what does not work well. Cube just puts everything in the same spot, pretty much. There's probably a way to do this 3 different ways for 3 different directions. I haven't figured out how. Cylinder, well, it's kind of cool. It's drawing a cylinder out from the middle and mapping it out that way. Then sphere, also pretty cool. You can find most of the surfaces there. The really cool ones are this. Smart UV project. Puts everything out somewhere on the page. Zoom this in a little bit. There's also light map pack. Slightly different. And follow active quads. Pretty about the same. We're going to take this file and we're going to export the UV layout under UVs and call it uv.png. We will now edit this file. Here I am opening up the file to edit in paint.net, and you can see the outline of all the different pieces that we could color, and this would get pretty crazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat. That looks pretty good. Copy the image, head over to paint.net, edit, paste into new layer, and sure, right about like that. So file, save, well, save as PNG. And just save it over the existing uv.png that was there. Flatten. Now head back over to Blender. In here, image, open image. There we go. Now if you want to see what this looks like in Blender itself, you can. You need to head out from edit mode and then change this to textured. And unfortunately it also works with the lighting, so there's our light. It's not particularly easy to see in Blender. I don't know Blender well enough, is possibly another reason for that. So let's get this over to Shapeways where it's a little bit easier to take a look at. I misspoke earlier. I used the wrong file format. So exporting to OBJ does not work very well for me with materials. So X3D instead works better. So I misspoke earlier. Here we go with X3D. Same things I did before. We're going to go with forward is Y, forward, Z is up, 30, selection only, and I'm going to call this one over here texture, and export. What we'll now get is a file. If we open this up using Notepad, I've been told it helps a little bit to remove the path information that got saved. Save that up. And now let's create a zip file of this. Create the zip file and then add the texture file into the zip file. Here we go. Yes. And now we can upload that to Shapeways. Here I am uploading the zip file up to Shapeways. And you'll immediately know if it worked or not, because you'll get a very, very colorful thing here. It looks quite nice. However, it may not be able to print. Let us see what it says. Oh my goodness! Full color sandstone has passed. $4.14. Beautiful.